So, hello everybody. Welcome to this exciting webinar. My name is Frances Potshulter. I'm the leading coordinator for Erasmus Courses Ireland and Select Ireland. And I'm just going to take 2 minutes just to let you know what we are. So, we are an organisation of 8 independently owned schools across Ireland in Dublin, Cork, and Galway. And we offer a variety of KA1 staff mobility programs. So for English language, upgrading programs for your personnel, for teachers, for academic personnel, also for student mobility programs. If you had groups of students that were wanting to do a specific program with English language and sustainability, English language and digitalization. We have a lot of courses on digitalization, inclusion, 21st century skills, diversity, sustainability. So there's a wide array there, and the schools all work very closely together. And last week we hosted a very wonderful program in Ireland, taking a group of 8 wonderful coordinators, including one person who's here. So I can't see you, Raquel, but thank you very much for joining us again. Oh, thank you, Raquel. So yes, I'm going to hand you over to Stuart. But before I do that, if you just want to put your name and the country that you're from, just for us, for a sense of interaction. So it's going to be more of a broadcast webinar. If you want to ask questions, you may either put your hand up in the chat bot or write it into the actual chat. That's fine. Or at the end, there'll be time for questions if you have any. But if not, then Stuart and I both here following the webinar to help you with any inquiries, any questions regarding any KA1 staff mobility or KA2 projects. So thank you. Over to you. Thanks, Stuart.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Francis. Hello, everyone. Greetings to those from Greece and in Spain. Hello, Raquel from España, from Spain. Hi, Raquel. Hello again. We met last week. I'm calling to you from East Coast Ireland, where it's a lovely 10 degrees, but getting dark. So today we're going to be talking about the 21st classroom, 21st century classroom. I'm thinking about how we can make our lessons more interesting, more diverse, more exciting for our learners. So let's get started. So first of all, we can always think about the classroom, and it's constantly changing. And if you think back to the pandemic, there might be certain things we do or certain things we promote nowadays in the classroom that maybe we didn't do prior to the pandemic. So when I'm thinking of the differences, I'm thinking maybe of some of these things. And some of them might be things we are regularly doing in class, such as the increased use of technology. Later today, I'm going to be telling you about AI, technology, how it can be incorporated. And I'm also going to be thinking about certain more interesting things, changes to classroom interaction that we want to promote, hybrid and online options. And mental and physical health, I think that's much more open nowadays, and people are more aware of it. And we as teachers want to be caring for our learners as much as before, but we want to be maybe more aware of certain things which are taking place in the classroom. So, what are we thinking about when we think of the 21st century classroom? Well, it could be the usage of technology. I think promoting this and highlighting digital literacy amongst our students, that's related to citizenship. We want to promote more collaboration and communication amongst our learners. We want to put our learners at the center of learning and maybe move away from more teacher-centered approaches. Let's get our learners at the center of any lesson that we're doing. I think promoting critical and open-ended questions, listen, that's only going to benefit our learners in the long run. Flexibility of teaching, and finally, student leadership and personal development. So these are certain things that we all want to focus on and develop in our class. So When we think of the classroom, I think maybe visuals like this can come to mind. And these are visuals from separate decades. And there's certain things that they have in common, certain things that are radically different. But for the most part, in all these visuals, maybe from the 2010s, where is the teacher? Center front. What are the classrooms like? Much the same, a bit overcrowded. But look at the seating. Maybe for some of us, our students may be like this. When I was at school, it was like that. So I think we want to think about, in the classroom, what is the seating arrangement like? Where is the teacher? How focused are the learners? What is teaching going to be like in the future? Who knows what it's going to be like just around the corner? So I think people are changing all the time, for the good and the bad. And maybe sometimes we label things. Maybe we shouldn't, but maybe we do nevertheless. So we have our millennials and we have our generation, well, Z or Z, as you may want to call them. So certain characteristics they may have. It's a bit of a generalization here, but I would say certain elements that there's a truth to it. So if we look at Generation Z, um, I don't know, am I envious of them or should they be envious of me? But they're digital natives. They were born with this technology. They've never known a life without the internet. Many of them will not have known a life without a smartphone, uh, which is kind of crazy if you think about it. But that's the way the world works. So they're digital natives, and what they may expect to take place in the classroom may be different to the teachers who might be millennials. For me, I'm a pre-millennial. I'm a product of the mid 1970s. So their outlook can be different. Maybe the millennials could be more optimistic. Generation Z might be a bit more cautious. If we think about work principles, I think nowadays there's much more focus, as I said, on one's mental health and well-being and social causes. So differences among students, and maybe we ourselves as teachers, when we were students, what took place in the classroom might be very different to what should take place in the classroom nowadays. So when we think of digital literacy, we want to be thinking about the effect of technology and how we can use it and evaluate information in an appropriate manner and how it's communicating with others throughout it. And I think some things like this, are they things that we're really promoting with our students? Some people will argue, are they things their parents should be teaching them? But nevertheless, when they come into our classroom and we're getting them to do things online, when we're bringing having a digital focus, we need to be promoting certain safeguards and points for them to follow. So let's look at some of these in a bit more detail. So are we promoting this with our students? Are they protecting their personal information? Are they just accepting yes to everything, all these pop-ups? Are they just clicking yes, agree, admit to all these things without really reading them? Are they protecting what is theirs? Do they have this awareness of all these privacy settings? I know I had some teachers last year doing an Erasmus Plus course with us, and they were telling us how some of their students would be sharing passwords. Like that boggles my mind how you would be sharing passwords with one another. But it's things like that. Are they able to recognize scams? So are we assisting students with this on their journey in a digital world? Are we promoting this? Now, is it our job? I still think there's a place for us to promote it. Are they promoting are they going to be bullying online? Are they going to be name calling? It's hopefully not something they do face to face. So why do they feel okay to do it in an online setting? So we want to, encourage them not to be doing that. Uh, Social media responsibility, promoting empathy with it, not oversharing things, respecting copyright reasons. So, give credit where credit is due. Don't plagiarize anything. If you're going to use ChatGPT, say you're using ChatGPT, acknowledge it. I think, things we want to assist our students with promoting digital literacy. And like a real world session, we want to, encourage them to think about, listen, what's it like to be away from our smartphone? What is it like to be away from this extension of our hand, and just be communicating all the way through it? I have some students, and sometimes we say, listen, it's a no phone class on occasion. You know, we might encourage them, listen, the weekend without using your smartphone. How do you feel? And some students come back and say, it's really good actually not having a smartphone. There's a time and a place for smartphones in our classroom, but we want to encourage them to be able to connect in the face-to-face manner. Like, there's nothing worse than talking to someone and they're too busy looking at their smartphone whilst you're talking to them. Each to their own, but it's a bit rude where I come from. So, what we want to focus on here is maybe how classrooms are changing. What is taking place in this classroom? How does it differ? So, the traditional approach, and I'm not a fan of the word lecture, but the traditional approach has the teacher at the center of the classroom, the giver of all knowledge. And I'm not crazy about the word lecture, but they are just giving the students all the information. How do students feel? Usually not in a very positive way, I would say. They're usually going to be quite bored. Now, it depends on the delivery of that presentation the teacher's doing, but we want to think about how we can make a lesson more interesting, more diverse for our learners. So one way of doing it is to incorporate kind of the flipped classroom. So rather than students listening to a teacher presenting new language, why don't we get the students to do the research beforehand? Because if we ask students, what do you want to do in class? They all want to talk. They want to participate in class. Listening to a teacher talk for 20, 30 minutes is not part of their enjoyment. So if we can have students research the language we want them to focus on, they can come to class, the teacher can reinforce that learning, and then the teacher can do what students want to do. They can get students engaged and talking together and using the language. Some of your students may just have two classes a week, maybe an hour and a half, 90 minutes of class a week. So, how much interaction are they going to have if a teacher is explaining them all the language in that class? Maybe students are only going to have 5, 10 minutes per week communicating together. But they're not getting the most out of class. So a flipped classroom can help achieve that. So again, before class, the students prepare to participate in class activities. So maybe they're doing that research. Who knows? Then they come to class and now they practice using the language in class. And they're getting the most out of their limited time, maybe in the classroom. After that, the students can check their understanding and extend their learning. Now, they're obviously going to liaise with the teacher in classroom, possibly outside the classroom through emails, through work emails. But it's giving the onus on the students to find out what information they can do before attending class. And when they come to class, they're getting the most out of their time by participating. Now, they can still ask questions, of course, with the teacher, but you ask them what you want to do, they want to talk, they want to participate. So there's certain things we can do to assist with promoting this in the classroom. So I think beforehand, there has to be expectations. Students need to know what's going to take place. What do they need to do in order for this to work? So they need to know what are the benefits of doing it. So by doing a bit of work before class, they're going to benefit by having an enjoyable classroom experience. If you're working back home, doing this research, well, there has to be a correct environment. Now, maybe they don't all have this environment, which is the difficulty. But we want to make sure that, listen, if they're doing work back home, that they're in a room which is good ventilation, they got a good seat, they got back support, they're standing up, stretching, that they're not seated all the time. Some people may argue, should we be promoting more screen time? Well, that's another issue altogether, though. We want to encourage this by having the material, getting interesting material that students will engage them, that will engage our learners. So it could be videos for them to watch. It could be activities we can set. It could be, Google Classroom tasks, collaborative tasks that they can do. But we want to have engaging material for our learners. There needs to be rules. And we need to be able to set these rules for our learners. Because if they don't know what the rules are, they're not going to do what they want to do. So if they don't know what they have to do before class, well, the problem is when they come to class, if they haven't followed it, then we're not going to be able to maximize it and get the most out of it. So they need to know the certain rules. Now, I think there has to be rules for the students. There has to be rules for the teachers as well. But I think for all learning, not just for the flipped classroom and blended learning, is we want to encourage accountability for one's learning, that they need to take ownership of their learning. And maybe only by doing that can they really prosper, but we want to encourage and promote that amongst them. So an example of a flipped classroom is, let's imagine we're teaching the difference between these two structures, although and despite. So before class, the students can do that research. So maybe you could give them this link, go to British Council, Learning English, and look at the difference between although and despite. So we're telling them where to do a bit of research, maybe to make it more interesting for them. We could also give them a video to watch. So maybe you could do this research and find a video which is going to be exciting for the students and educational, and get them to watch this video. So now, when they come to class, you can quickly go over the answers. You can ask your concept checking questions, but now we can get students to use the target language. It's what they most want to do, is practice using the target language. So hopefully it'll benefit our learners in the long run. So advantages and disadvantages of it. There can be advantages for the students. There can be advantages for the teachers. For the students, well, we want to remove their over reliance on the teacher. We want to make them independent learners, because that's long term. Like learning a language is a long term journey. Hopefully, less classroom distractions by them doing the work prior. Hopefully, we'll give them a better understanding of the topic. And I think the important word there is it can. I'm not saying it will, but it can give them a better understanding of the topic. But the main benefit there, I think, is that learner to learner interaction. It's what they want to do in class. So let's give them the opportunity to do it. For the teacher, again, I think classroom setting can be more engaging if they are involved in this journey. Less teacher centered, so they are talking, they are chatting. Uh, Hopefully, the material can be used more than once. That's obviously going to be a benefit for the teacher, because we don't want to be spending far too much time in working on new material. So for everything, there are advantages, there are disadvantages. So disadvantages for the students and the teacher. So, listen, it's self-discipline. If you give students regular homework, are they always going to do it? Probably not. But again, as I said, we want to encourage this accountability for the learning. So will they have the self-discipline to do it? We have to give them this ownership and encourage this. Now, but it's their responsibility. If they don't do it, things may not necessarily work in the classroom. It could be technology difficulties. Do they have appropriate internet access? Do they have all constant Wi-Fi? Do they have a room where they can sit down? Do they have to share their computer with other family members? So it's not always as simple as someone just go to the room and they can just do everything on their laptop. Do we want to be promoting, as I said, more screen time? And could they feel unsupported on this journey? Like they might feel a bit lonely. They might be a bit hesitant about some of the language they're doing, and they want the teacher to be there. Now, the good thing is we're not going to leave them completely alone because the next day or so when they're in class, we do want to go over this with them. Um, for the teacher, I think there's a few things here. So, first of all, it's time. Does the teacher have sufficient time to plan a lesson? Because it's not a case of, I'm not promoting this, but it's not a case of just opening up the class, the course book and following the course book. The teacher needs to find material which is going to stimulate our learners. That might take a bit of time. The way I think about it is I have no problem spending a long time preparing for a lesson if I can only use it another time. So, time is time. I think expectations are going to be really interesting because one may base their expectations on what will occur in the classroom based on how they studied a language. So, from their previous experience being in the classroom when they were younger, they might have preformed ideas about what a teacher should do. So, students may expect the teacher to be that giver of all knowledge. Maybe they're right, maybe they're wrong, but nevertheless, they may expect the teacher always to be there. They may not want to do that research because whose job is it, they may say. And of course, parents may say that as well. Like they may say, I don't want Junior, on his smartphone doing more research. I don't want them looking at this or that. It's your job. Okay, yeah, it is our job. But are we making the best of our time? Again, if students want to participate in class, they may not want to listen to the teacher lecture, you know, because I don't know, lectures tend not to be so exciting. Depends on the lecture, I suppose. Um, so again, and also finally, if they don't do that pre-class work, what's going to take place in the classroom? Are other students going to get annoyed with others if they're not doing it? Does it create a bad atmosphere? But it is something we could encourage. But I think signposting, letting students know that, hey, if you do this work before class, it can really assist us in class. If you want to talk in class, if you want to participate, then this is going to help you. So I think signposting, letting students know why you're doing things is always going to be a valuable experience. I always think about learning something. It's all about noticing. If we can encourage this noticing to take place in a classroom, I think there's more chance learning will occur. If students don't notice something, there's a good chance they're going to make the same mistakes again and again and again. So it becomes a fossilized mistake, as we call it. So if we can notice, hopefully we can learn something. I remember last year someone said this to me. I saw the word Charlie XCX on something. And me, I just said, what is Charlie XCX? I was showing my age there. What is Charlie XCX? It's the wrong question to ask. And it was a who. And that was on the 14th of October. Later that week, what do I see is this. Charlie's XCX brat finally tops chart. Okay, so I'm I could guarantee that if the student had not drawn my attention to Charlie XCX, I don't even know if I'm saying XCX correctly, but the student had not drawn my attention to the name of this singer, 100%, I really don't think I would have noticed it when I was looking at the newspaper. It would have gone over my head. I would not have been able to focus in on it. So they've drawn my attention to something. I've started noticing something. So if we can create noticing tasks in the classroom, we're going to help our learners long term. So I'm just going to go over a few noticing tasks that I often do with my learners, and hopefully you can maybe do them with your learners as well. Because this is what we want to make our students. We want to move them away from being passive participants and being active learners. I know which one they might enjoy more, being active. So, a guide to discovery task, and most of our course books will have this, is we're encouraging learners to work out the meaning of new language themselves. So we're guiding them on this journey, giving them questions and making them discover the meaning and maybe the form of the target language. So in this example here, um, you know, pre-intermediate level, regular verbs past simple, maybe they can analyze those two model sentences in green after they've read a text. And maybe in pairs, they could answer these questions and answer them. Now, it's a pre-intermediate level, and some people will say, but they can't do that. Well, maybe not. Maybe yes. I think it's going to be a bit of a challenge for them. But I see challenge as being something positive. If it's too challenging, it's going to overwhelm them. But generally, a challenge is something positive if they can achieve it. Now, some people will say, but they'll make mistakes. I say, no problem. Because we are going to go over as teachers, we are going to go over the answers for these anyway, aren't we? So we're going to go over the answers. We're going to highlight why the answer is what it is. We're going to ask our concept checking questions. We're going to reinforce this with them. So again, learner interaction. A guided discovery like this done in pairs can promote learner to learner interaction. And we're not only doing that, we're promoting cooperative learning because now learner A is telling learner B what the answer is. And learner B is now correcting learner A. And learner A is saying, thank you. So they're working together and assisting one another as they go through these language points. So guided discovery tasks, yes, they can be challenging, but we're giving them the initiative to work out the target language. And remember, the teacher's still going to go over the answers and highlight certain clear points. So guided discovery gets my thumbs up. And also, again, ask students, what do you not want the teacher, what do you not want the teacher to do? They usually don't like listening to the teacher. Ironic, isn't it? But they don't like listening to us too often because they want to often interact. So certain advantages, more participation and speaking. I won't say 100% it's more memorable, but I think if students are working out new language themselves, I think there's more of a chance it's more memorable. Think if you learn something, if you teach yourself, you're probably going to learn it more than if someone lectures you and tells you how to do it. And hopefully it's more enjoyable as they will be more engaged. And again, we're promoting learner autonomy. We want to promote how can students use the language outside of the classroom? How can they work out the meaning? Again, for every advantage, there may be disadvantages. And again, it could be against the expectations. Like they may just expect the teacher to tell them. I'm not saying it's a good way, but it's what they may expect to occur in the classroom. Teacher, tell me, just tell me, don't know will that help them long term. Um, I didn't say 100% it was more memorable. Maybe some students prefer being told it works for them. Maybe their level of English may not be suitable enough to do a guided discovery task. And listen, some rules in English are obviously going to be a bit complicated. It may be difficult for them to work out certain rules of certain language points. But again, I think giving students the opportunity to I think is something. Trialing and trying something could be good to do. Another task I sometimes do is this one, text reconstruction. I like this. So, um, let's say upper intermediate for this specific task is I give students a short paragraph, 6, 7 sentences in length. And I give them a general reading task to get a general idea about what the text is about. So on their own, they quickly read the task, give them 20, 30 seconds or so. Then you answer the task they have to do. So now, if this is on a sheet of paper, it's folded. They now turn over the sheet of paper and voila, they now look at this. Okay. They're not seeing the full sentences. Okay. Now words have been removed. And students now have to reconstruct and put the sentences together. Now, they're not to look, ideally, they're not to look back at the original reading. So, although nearly as large city, they're always new to Dublin. So, although, now let's say they're working in groups of two or three, promotion cooperative learning. What comes after although? Is it a subject? Do we need a verb? We want to have them working together. Because students might say, although is not nearly. Nothing's wrong, but we're giving them the opportunity to explore. Okay. Now, I give them several minutes to do this, and hopefully it'll be more engaging and we're promoting learner interaction. Now, once they've done the task, they can now open it and now they compare. And I think by this comparison, can we promote noticing? Can they see the difference between what they wrote and what should be the correct function? If they can notice the difference, I think there's more chance of the learning taking place. If they don't notice the difference, maybe it's become fossilized. So this is a text reconstruction, which might be a nice way to review certain language structures that you're covering in class. Another activity, I really like this one actually, it would be one of my favorite, is a dictogloss. It's a type of dictation, I suppose. Now, I would have this sheet and I have an introduction to, let's say here it's about visiting places in Ireland. Okay, so I'd have a little discussion about this beforehand, and then I give them a general reading task. So again, I read it, sorry, listening task. I read it to them, they listen, and they answer a question. Okay. So I want to, they familiarize themselves in general with comprehension. What is the text about? And again, they don't see this. It's only in my hand. Okay. Now, I then get them to get a pen and a sheet of paper or type. And I read it usually two more times at normal speed, too fast, not too slow, at normal speed. And they have to write down the key words. So I would say, a day trip here is a really good idea if a person visits Dublin. For some people, it might be a bit boring, but I've always been completely amazed by it. So I might wait for 5 seconds at the end of every sentence before continuing. So again, they're only listening and they're writing down the key words. So the words they're writing down are going to be nouns and verbs mostly. Okay. So I've read it twice now. First for a general idea. Second time, write down key words. And now I'll read it one more time for good measure. And again, they have to write down more words. More words. So writing down more words. They won't be able to write full sentences. Fantastic. Because now, once I've done it, I put them into groups, usually groups of three. And with their partners, they have to use the words that they wrote and the words that their partners wrote and put them together and write the full 5 sentences. So again, it's a very learner-centered task. They're doing all the work, and yeah, they're going to make mistakes. Like they might say a day trip here, a really good idea. Let's say they drop out the verb to be, but they're going to notice it because later they'll see what I read, and now they compare, and now they write down. Well, what are the differences? What words did I forget? Usually, I get them to use, if they wrote it down, I get them to use a different color pen, and for them to highlight. Well, what are the differences? Now, when they do a dictogloss, I always say to them, it doesn't have to be exactly the same as what I said, as long as the grammar and spelling is good. I don't care if they say a day trip is a day trip here is great if you come to Dublin. I kind of don't care because as long as it's grammatically a correct sentence, because listening is all about comprehension. So if they are able to comprehend the general meaning, I don't care 100% if their wording is slightly different, as long as you're getting the general message. So working together, again, we're promoting cooperative learning. They're assisting one another on this journey whilst they're doing the task. Another task I could do is a retranslation. So translations don't work for me here at CES in Dublin because my students come from all over the world. So they speak many different languages. But a retranslation is something which can be fun to do. So imagine I'm teaching ED and ING adjectives. So first of all, I teach it, get them to do a guided discovery task. But let's say for practice, let's say they have several sentences, okay? And then they have to choose the correct option. So, what was an interesting class you had at school? Have you seen anything? Were you excited when you saw them? Okay. So, let's say I choose two sentences. And now, on their own, and usually on another sheet of paper, they translate those sentences into their language. So I got students from France, from Spain, from Korea, from Saudi Arabia, from all over, from Turkey. They translate it into their language. I don't speak their language, but it's not important at the moment. Okay. So they spend a few minutes. Now they cannot use their translators. They cannot use ChatGPT. They're just using what they have. So now I get some volunteers to read out their sentences. So now the student from Spain, they read it out in Spanish. And the other students usually find this really interesting, hearing different languages being spoken in class. So the Spanish speaker says the sentence, student from Spain. And now I ask the student from Mexico, I say, do you have the exact same wording? And they'll just exactly the same, but the meaning is different. Okay. Then I might say to the Italian student, I said, did you understand Spanish? And the Italian will say, understood exactly what the person said in Spanish because their languages are similar. Then I might get a student from another language to read it out. I just get a few. Okay. Now, now I get them into groups of maybe three where they have different languages. And now I get them to say, how is your language different compared to English? How do you say those sentences in your language? So now, let's say the Spanish speaker is saying, well, actually, my language, I use the article, I say at the school. Now, the Korean student is saying, well, actually, the last verb in my sentence is the word is the verb. The Turkish student is saying, oh, me too. So now they're comparing. How is their language different to English? We get feedback. We talk about how some of the things are different. I'm not going to leave it. Okay. So let's say we did this at the start of class. So now, 5 minutes from the end of class, now I get students to look at their translation and now in their language, and now they translate it back into English. Uh-huh. So now when they translate it back into English, they're saying, "Hey, wait a second, I forgot my article, or I said what was an interested class." Okay, they've made a mistake. But can they notice the mistake? Can they justify that mistake? Oh no, no, ED is for feelings, ING is for the thing. Are they able to justify it? So retranslation, I wouldn't be doing it every day. Well, every week, every 2 weeks, I might do it in a class with a tense, with a conditional, with a ED, ING adjective, something like that. So it's kind of an interesting thing. And again, students tend to like finding out more about their classmates. How do you do things in your country? How do you do things in your language? So it can be a fun thing to do, retranslation. Um, I'm not a big fan of high teacher talking time, which sounds hypocritical in a webinar like this. But I think the important thing is for students to be the active participants in a classroom. And I remember watching a 7 minute long presentation of a regular teacher, and I counted the number of words that was being spoken. And the teacher, this number of words. So the three students who spoke the least in a 7 minute period said 8 words. Take a note, that's not 8 sentences, it's 8 individual words. The student who spoke the most said 12 words. Now, maybe it could be a fantastic presentation, but I look at this and I say, how involved are all the students? Not so much, I would say, because they're kind of passive participants in a presentation if the teacher is telling them all the information. They're not so involved as such, as much as they could be, I suppose. So again, it's the idea of active participants, passive participants. We want to make them into active learners. Can they maybe work out rules? Can they be involved in class? I think that's what we really want to promote as much as we can in class. Make it an engaging and enjoyable and educational experience for them. As we can see here, how much retention one can have after 24 hours is, unfortunately, lectures are not coming out too hot on this scale of things. So it says here it's 5%. Now, I'm not saying 100% because I've gone to lectures which were brilliant. Lectures were fantastic. It was like the teacher in Dead Poet Society or something, they're just really, really good. But again, there's a good chance students can remember things more if they're more active participants, if they're working out the language themselves. Discussing in groups, we can see it's much more. Teaching one another becomes very high. Now, I wouldn't do it all the time, can be a bit of a novelty, but if students teach themselves, if they're helping one another, there's a good chance it can become more memorable for them. Now, they could always tell the incorrect information, but the teachers can be monitoring, be assisting them as much as we can. So we don't want our learners like this. We want our learners like this. Let them be happy chaps in class. So, and 21st century skills. So we're speaking about making lessons a bit more learner centered. Spoke about the flipped classroom, making things more learner centered for them. And I think AI is kind of the buzzword at the moment. Every few years is a new buzzword, but AI is the current buzzword, isn't it? And I think some people can be worried of it. They can be wary of it. But I think we as teachers, I don't know is the word embrace the correct word, but I think we can use it to our advantage so much. It makes our job so much easier. Now, there is an issue with certain things to it, but I think we can really use it to assist us as much as possible. And this is what most teachers are using it for on a day-to-day basis. I know I use for many of these things worksheet sample texts. Yeah, I'll go into ChatGPT, I'll give it some cues, I'll see what it comes up with. I might keep it, I might reject it, I might adapt it. But I'm using it. I want it to assist me on making my lessons as beneficial for my learners as possible. This is what many teachers are using AI for these days. A lot of people are just creating visuals. Our material could be visuals, giving them practice of it, admin. I know one or two people who use it to correct all the homework. I haven't got there yet. So I think morally, I don't know. I don't know. Maybe some teachers do, but morally, I can't. If the student has gone to the effort of creating something, I need to go to the effort of correcting it. I think I just morally, I can't just get AI to correct homework for me. Um, but I think we want to, like, we cannot uninvent something. ChatGPT AI is not going away. It's only going to stick around and grow. Okay. So for our learners, we want to think, well, sorry. how can we assist our learners to get the best out of it? So maybe like some people worry, they say, oh, but like, AI cannot explain grammar, it cannot, or whatever. Now, AI can explain grammar more succinctly, more concisely than a teacher can if you tell it to. Uh, so here I said, let's learn the present perfect simple in English. And I gave AI, ChatGPT, I said, listen, I'm an A2 level learner. Keep things clear and simple. And this is what I came up with. Now, I could encourage it to even be more simple. I might give it a certain number of words. What's the main time we use the present perfect simple? So maybe can we assist learners by encouraging them to, you know, go home this evening? Remember, like blended classroom, go home this evening. Maybe say, use ChatGPT. What what answers is it giving you? What assistance is it giving you? Because I tell you, probably going to be more concise than a lot of teachers. Now, some teachers can be brilliant, but some of them might be a little wordy in their explanations. So, ChatGPT can be really useful for maybe novice teachers, but for students to guide them how they can use it to better understand something. Um, it could be creating tasks. So there was some research done, and students were given tasks with ChatGPT, and they were asked to use it and see how they liked it. So when it came to a reading, learners were asked to create their own text and questions that they would then give to other students in the classroom. Okay. Now, there were advantages to that, there were disadvantages to that. So remember, we're now asking learners to create reading for students and to use ChatGPT AI to create questions. So those students were engaged because they are now at the center, kind of at the center. Like, ChatGPT really is at the center, but they're at the center of what's taking place in the classroom. It's collaborative, it's engaging. What could be better? Now, there was a downside to it in that it didn't necessarily develop the sub skills that maybe your regular teacher would want to do. And certain learners did feel that the traditional methods might be more efficient and relevant. So, isn't it interesting? We're using AI here, and there was a positive to it, but students did also see a negative to it as well. Another thing could be speaking. So maybe get students to use ChatGPT to create questions. Now, personally, I like it if they come up with their own questions. For some students, they may just not be in the mood. They may find it a bit difficult, but maybe you could give them a topic and you could say, listen, create 10 questions. So they create 10 questions. And maybe you could say, so now look at those questions and decide which four questions other students in the room would most like to answer. So now the students are analyzing the questions, which ones would be good, which ones would be useful. Again, you could always give ChatGPT enough information, background information to assist students. You could say for this level, for a B1 level, or so that's going to take away many complex vocabulary items for students. But this is engaging for learners. And likewise with mistakes. Learners correct their mistakes through ChatGPT. Again, it's not going away. It's going to stick around. Your students are going to use it. So how can they use it in a positive way? So it can empower them to do that. So we're promoting learner autonomy. And maybe when it comes to writing, now we can use this in the classroom. Learners correct a draft of their writing through ChatGPT. Now, you could give it boundaries. You could just say, like, it depends the level. Like, you could correct like 1,001 things, which could demotivate your students. But the students could say, correct five important things in my writing. So that can be engaging for students, and it can assist them because maybe in the real world, they're going to apply for a job interview. And listen, I don't know all ourselves, ask ChatGPT to create a job interview letter, a job application letter. Now, obviously, we're going to change it, we're going to edit it, but we just say, listen, give us three options. And then we can choose which one we like, we can adapt it, we can change it. But maybe the students are going to do that, but not get them to encourage it to use AI, maybe to assist them with correcting their work, to empower them in their learning. And then with new language, maybe we can encourage our students to analyze it. Like, what does this word mean? Can you explain this to me more clearly? Because maybe students are just saying, what does this word mean? But maybe AI, you haven't filtered in the fact that it might give a very long answer. So maybe, how can you explain to this more clearly? It's another way to say this. It's the opposite. What's the negative? So maybe students can just create some more of these questions. And again, your average student feels engaged in doing this within the class setting or pre-class setting. Um, I wonder down the road, where is this going to go with these AI tutors? Hmm. Well, I'm retiring another 15 years, so maybe I'll get out of this before it becomes too big of a reality. But some people worry, listen, is will AI take over and will students rely on it as teachers? Now, this kind of popped up on my Google search engine thing a while ago. And it was just this advert. And it was advertising like learn another language through our AI tutor. The tutor is the one on the left. Okay. Learn AI through AI. Now, the company that was doing this was advertising this. They were saying it's 10 times better than a human tutor. Now, if this is true, we're all in big trouble. It was 10 times better than us. Okay, so this is what it says it can do. So it can do all these things. And listen, we have to agree, it works 24 hours 7. I'm not answering an email at 3 o'clock in the morning. Okay, it can do these things, unlimited learning. It knows an awful lot more than we can ever know. So, yes, there's lots of positives going on, but there's many things it cannot do. Many things it cannot do. So at the moment, will AI replace teaching? The answer is no. Um, we offer emotional support, which AI cannot do. Maybe in the future it can. Maybe students born today will grow up feeling that AI can give emotional support, or maybe they don't care if it's real or not real giving emotional support. But we offer empathy because we know what it's really like to learn a language. We've been on the other side of that table. We can adapt to what's taking place in the classroom. Uh, Maybe AI can offer ethical guidance if we tell it to. We can encourage critical thinking. Um, Hopefully, we can know our students and adapt to their needs. Well, I think we want to promote AI as innovation. How can we really assist us on the journey to be better teachers? A lot of teachers are becoming burnt out. Like, it's a tough job we have. Every day we walk into that classroom, we don't know what's going to face us. It can be a difficult job. Well, can we use something to make our life better? I know, I know teachers who adamantly refuse to use it. I think they might be missing something there. We use it as an anti-burnout tool, make our life easier. Like these teachers who say they don't want to use AI, but they want to create their own context. Yeah, and now they spend 2 hours creating paragraphs. I know something that can really help them do that faster. Um, I think this is something we should encourage with our learners. I always hated it. I'll just be really, really concise and finish up in a second here. But I always hated it at schools when teachers would say, you have to do this, or you can't do this. And you'd say, why? And they just say, you just can't. And that was never really a good answer. You just can't. So I think with our students, can we let them know why we're doing things a bit more? Because if they know why, they're going to go on this journey with us. But if we just say you can't, well, maybe not. Maybe not. I always wonder though, is the worry of ChatGPT a bit like 1998 and calculators? Because in 1998, I believe that was when Google was launched. And maybe people were initially quite, the teachers were a bit intimidated by it. Like, how can we teach if people are going to use Google? Maths teachers, so like in the 1970s and 60s when calculators came along, when I was at school, you weren't allowed to use calculators until we were like 15 or 16. I don't know, has it changed? So I wonder, is this worry about AI, will it disappear? Will it grow? Time will tell. Time will tell. Any questions?
Mhm. Yeah, it's absolutely fine, everybody. You don't know each other. Hi, Karine. I can see you
Karine,
there.
how are you? Karine in Provence, how are you?
Fine, sorry for the delay, but I have class, so I need to end up the class. And then I get trouble with Zoom because you are not allowed to have Zoom here in France. So I need to find out. On my part, it was great.
Very good.
Well done.
Good to see you again.
Yeah, good.
Good. So Karine was also with us in Ireland last week on the CPD program, Continuous Professional Development Program for Erasmus coordinators. Thank you, Karine. That was fantastic. So I can happily send people more about that if you want to come to Ireland and visit our centres as a coordinator. So Stuart, thank you so much. I thought that was
Thank you,
really
thank you.
interesting because there's two sides to it. Some people are really going, oh, embrace AI, embrace AI. But there is that thing of like, listening to it from a student's point of view, and that it could be impersonal. I think the ethical side of it also, I put in the chat, is it going to make us teachers
Bit
and
lazy.
students lazy? But as you said there, only time will tell.
Yeah, a bit with lazy. Like I used ChatGPT the other day, and I typed something in, like there was a spelling mistake. I didn't even correct myself. I didn't go back and change the spelling because
No.
I knew it was going to recognize it. So I wonder, like, are we becoming lazy, just automatically using it?
Or efficient, I think.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes, I think that's right. So thank you very much, everybody, for joining. Stuart, will you send me a copy of the slides
I
so that
will
I can
indeed. I will
forward?
indeed.
Lovely,
I'll do that tomorrow morning.
lovely. Well, everybody around Europe, and I think we had somebody from South America signed up as well.
Oh,
So thank you
fantastic.
very much for joining, and yeah, we look forward to seeing you again.
Thank
Super.
you. Bye-bye.
Take care. Have a
Bye,
good
my
evening.
dear.
Bye.
Nice to
Bye.
see you.
Bye.
Bye.
See you. Take care.
Thanks so much, Stuart. Have a lovely evening. Keep
Bye,
warm.
Raquel.
Hi, Raquel.
Hey, how are you doing?
Good.
Good,
How are
good, good,
you?
good.
Fine, fine.
Yeah. How is it being back in the classroom?
It was nice. It was nice,
Yes.
but stressful at the same time.
Um,
Yeah. And that's it. Not just going to other schools and going for meals and
Yeah,
cultural activities. And
I miss you a lot.
yeah, I'm
and
so pleased.
the good weather has continued. It's still nice here.
Yeah, that's good. Here it wasn't very nice when I returned.
No,
So,
no.
Well,
I think we have 14 degrees tomorrow.
wow, that's amazing.
So sorry, Francis, just VBT, it says, where can we visit your centres in Ireland?
so I'm just writing there. So thank you, VPD. We've just organized this program. Actually, two of the people here came. So it's an Erasmus CPD program, and it's for Erasmus coordinators on from funding to impact. It's bringing Irish culture to life, the background on Ireland, its history, partner exchange, strategic partnership, and also visiting Cork, Dublin, Ireland. We give you all the documentation, so it's covered by your Erasmus fund for partnership building. Yes, and so we give certification, measurable outcomes. So, thank you, Raquel.
Oh, thank
Yes,
you.
Yes. So yes, I'll send everybody information about that as well. So because it was a great trip and to bring a place to life and learn all the modern methodology as well that we did with 21st century skills and motivating learners and inclusion. So yeah, no, we were very lucky and the participants were fantastic. Very, very,
Thumbs up, definitely.
yes. Great. Right. I am going. Oh, thank you,
Thanks,
Raquel. It's
thanks,
our
Raquel.
pleasure. Okay, lovely to see everybody. Thank you, Stuart, and we'll be in touch tomorrow.
We'll be in touch. Have a good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming.
Ciao,
Ciao,
bye.
ciao. Adios.